And thanks for joining us once again for another Blunt Business here on cannabisradio.com. And wonderful, really glad to going to have this guest because I'll tell you, it'd been a little while going, and I had gotten the chance to talk to this guest on our grassroots marketing program. And I said, okay, I need to bring her back. I had another show we were going to have her featured on, and unfortunately, that show now has gone on hiatus. So I did not want to lose out on the opportunity. I said, we have more to go and talk about with this wonderful guest. She is a Cornell University alumna with a Bachelor of Science in Food Science and Technology, Business Nutrition and Health. She's a visionary certified food scientist. Her journey includes pivotal roles at industry giants like Danone, Evian, and Hydrant, and where she honed her skills as a product developer, research and development engineer, and FDA compliance specialist. So I'm glad to go and welcome back here on The Blunt Business, the founder and chief food scientist at brelixi, Breanna Neff. Breanna, thanks for being on with us.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Hello. And thank you for the warm intro.
Absolutely. I was so fascinated. And like I said, when I was going to get you on another show, I went to bat because I was like, okay, we need to have Breanna on another show. Like there was absolutely more time I needed to go and have with you. If it wasn't me, I just thought, okay, I have another show that really is much into consumer, really CBG beverages, consumables specifically. And I thought you would have been a perfect tie-in, but that show, after so many years, decided to go ahead and, stop doing it, but that's okay. We'll still have you here. So let's go and first of all talk about what you've been doing right now for the last year or so with brelixi. Features exclusive nano cannabis technology, which delivers not only rapid onset times, but also the added benefits of nootropics, electrolytes, adaptogens, and antioxidants. Nano emulsification process you have is at the core of the flavorless and functional fast-acting powders. And the advanced technology makes for optimized cannabinoid absorption, leading to increased bioavailability and a quicker, more effective response. And brelixi incorporates adaptogens like L-theanine, magnesium, and nootropics such as 5-HTP from Griffonia seed extract. I know it's a lot there to go, but I wanted to go ahead and just put the whole encompassing there, what you do, because when I've had other guests on talk about bioavailability or taking beverages and consumables and emulsifying them, putting them in with water, blending them together, and what you're able to make. What is it about your experience in food science, especially with all that you just did right there, just with brelixi right now with your nano cannabis technology? We've heard about nanotechnologies for years, but what was it about your entrance coming in from food science that was best suited to formulate cannabis consumables?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for that. I think it's, the high focus on flavor and also the complexities of flavors that you can get in a food and beverage product, for example, when you commercialize it and scale it up. And I feel like that exact focus, that intention, and let's say high focus on exactly flavor complexity systems and how it's delivered throughout the formula, it was not really of high regard when it comes to most formulations out there in the consumables industry. To be very honest, I'm not really happy or that pleased with most consumables that I get because of the aftertaste or the all-consuming plant taste that everyone's familiar with, right? Everyone it knows what I'm talking about when I'm referencing this, and so I found that to be something that I really wanted to focus on and really make sure that that was adequately a successful development in my product, which is a really great flavor experience, a really great flavor delivery system, but then also a really awesome functional delivery system. And that's when, I got really, really inspired and attracted by the nano emulsified cannabinoid ingredient. And when I did my research in the market, I found there not to be a lot of products out there that found that, put that together synergistically with an array of functional ingredients like we are doing with brelixi. So that's what really was catching my eye and what drawn me to produce something and put something into the marketplace. And I'm so happy that I did because the consumers are loving it. We get those consumers that, already have adaptogens and nootropics, let's say, in their routines, and they really are also a cannabis consumer. So the fact that we have this flavorless blend and also a flavored lemonade stick that can deliver all of that together in a one easy format is exactly what I wanted to bring to the market and what our consumers are really loving. So really, really excited about that.
So I want to make a point from another article I read about leading up to this about the future of nanotechnology and cannabis science. So from the folks we've had in here on either on Blunt Business or Grassroots Marketing, it's some of the same kind of ideas that they all have where we want to get rid of the oily taste or any kind of the cannabis smell or well, just the aftertaste and some of the areas of trying to go ahead and create something that's emulsified, that has a good taste to it, and also the flavor palette that you have. What kind of flavors work best to go ahead and emulsify and put together, and also to make it where it's bioavailable, where it just really absorbs well into the body wherever you want to
Mhm.
have it work. And so there's a quick absorption and also just a quick entourage effect on top of that.
Mhm.
But now,
Mhm.
one of the areas he spoke about here was about the cannabis sciences facing challenges common to any nascent field, finding consensus around references and standards between laboratories around the world. So they're
Mhm.
talking about that nanotechnology approaches and methods and reference materials should all become standardized. So
Yep.
enabling more accurate testing and quality assurance, safer products, and continued growth in markets worldwide. So I've talked about compliance so many different times before, but what do
Yep.
you see right now in terms of what are we at that point where we can start looking at the creative? I want to talk about that a little bit later on when it comes to how food safety and where you come from, what is being created there. But
Mhm.
are we at that discussion yet?
Unfortunately, no, in terms of it being standardized across all laboratories and getting consistent results, as you were, mentioning as well. I haven't found that in my experience. And, before my time in brelixi, so that's a hemp focused brand. I was a freelancer as a, food scientist for other companies, small startups and, vegan and functional based companies mostly. And working with those types of food groups like food and beverages that we know and that are, regulated by the FDA, it's been in the industry for a while, so we know exactly how to test for it. Let's say vitamin C, for example. All third lab accredited laboratories know how to test for vitamin C. They use one specific accredited method, and it's not really discussed like that. It is what it is. When it comes to cannabis, especially in my experience with nano emulsified ingredients, some labs can't even test nano emulsified. It's too small of a particle for them to even detect. And so we're not able to go to those certain labs, and our capacity, or let's say the availability of labs for us decreases. But then also lab to lab, I found in my short time and having experience here, it's been what you're saying is varied, and that is what I'm seeing. You're seeing labs that have different results, like literally lab to lab over a same material. So that really shocked me as a food scientist because usually I go to one or two labs and they say the same exact thing. Here it said it was a small difference, per formulation. And so because of that, I really made sure that the labs that we're using and testing for brelixi is I'm really satisfied with them. So thank God, I'm really happy that I have some this type of pedigree and experience in regulatory compliance as a food scientist. I used to work at Dannon and Evian, sitting in their legal affairs department, just doing regulatory compliance work and things like that. So happy that experience is I created that experience because it's really something I utilize and lean on all the time. Running this type of hemp company in this emerging industry where things are changing all the time. So I made sure that the labs that we're using have consistent results. I've been testing ever since, brelixi was ideated back in November of 2022, actually, to make
Mhm.
sure that the labs that we created were consistent in the COAs that we're creating. So the fact that I found that pretty early on was really I was really happy about as well, but it just really made my eyes open, really wide open to kind of the industry differences that we're seeing. So when I talk to consumers, that's why it's really important. I really stress the fact that you make sure that you're buying, when it comes to recreational cannabis, that it has the test results easily shown there, and that basically the company isn't afraid or isn't trying to hide what their required compliances are when it comes to testing. I think that's the first step. But again, the labs do, it's not even the lab's fault in terms of not having these regulations set. It's just the nature of FDA and this new type of industry and how there's not enough capacity or money, let's say, to focus on things like this in the country or the government right now. So it's very, very interesting.
You made a lot of points right there, and I want to just take part of it was first of all, you talk about how Brelixi is hemp based, and also when we talked
Yes.
about the standardization that we're not ready for that discussion yet. But that's also because of the fact that for a lot of companies to get the right dosage in for every product to make sure it's that there's a lot of uniformity in that respect. Now, while you were studying at Cornell, John Hopkins Medicine actually reported about a proof of concept study in 2015. So, a Johns Hopkins researcher, they led a team that reported a sample of edible cannabis products. This is 2015, so a while
Mm.
back. They were carrying labels, cannabis products carrying labels that overstated or understated the amount of Delta 9 THC. And then last year, products are freely available for sale across much of the United States, but the federal legalization or legislation allowing their sale prices. Only minimal requirements are made by companies. But then the National Institute of Health, NIH, has recently published an article saying that potency and safety analysis of hemp Delta 9 products, they said this quote, products must contain no more than 0.3% Delta 9 THC by dry weight, but no limit is placed on overall dosage. And there's no
Mhm.
requirement that products are tested. Are you surprised, Brianna, that this continues to be publicly addressed after all this time? And there's any significant difficulty to produce a consistently dosed product?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of highlights FDA's regulation and USDA's regulation, right? In terms of food and beverage companies. Like, if people really knew the insides of
Yeah.
what is required in terms of regulatory, requirements that are posed on food and beverages, it's not that stringent. And so now it's it makes sense to me. It's understandable that a new industry or a new food type, for example, like this, or ingredient type, is having these types of inconsistencies, because I believe, just from my experience, there's no extreme focus on from these regulatory bodies that are in charge of putting standardization and protocols for everyone to adapt to. They're not focusing on it, so we don't have it. So honestly, right now people are just leading towards what is industry standard, meaning what the bigger boys are doing and how they're doing it the best. That's literally what's happening right now in the industry, until FDA or the USDA has a better control over these methods. So that's basically what we're waiting for. And it's so, for me as a food scientist, I'm not surprised to hear that, unfortunately.
I mean, this is where we can't even get into the federal government sense of trying to go and get some kind of guidance. I mean, that's all we're looking for. But the guidance that they
Yeah.
have is still kind of very vague and it doesn't really say much. And it's like, well,
Yep.
and then it has to be put to the state level. Okay, then there's because without the guidance, and why is it, obviously these other states that come out, oh, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, THCO, HHC, whatever there is, whatever cannabinoids, they're going to be subjected to go ahead. Well, they can be banned, they can be taken off shelves. We
Mm,
don't know what is allowed or what can be. If the guidance was put in place, and we wouldn't have these states having to go ahead and make changes, so we can have a
yeah,
uniformity as to where you can go and put your product, and that's
exactly.
very confusing.
Exactly.
Can imagine.
Very confusing, and literally puts the risk and the pressure on the brands themselves and the company owners. So I can't just rely on the federal farm bill for all of my compliance checks and all of my regulatory requirements. I have to then not only abide by that, but abide state by state, and sometimes municipality by municipality, to make sure that these hemp regulations are adequate for those zones that I'm trying to ship to, for example. So it's especially as a small company with limited resources, bootstrap startups such as myself, it's nearly impossible without having other parts of your business not focused on. So that's on it. That's unfortunately the reality right now.
We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I'm here again with Breanna Neff, founder and chief food scientist at Brelixi. That's Brelixi, and just add the .com. That's the website, Brelixi.com, to go ahead and follow along and see the products and take a look at that while we go to break. And also come back because we're going to go and talk more about. There's always been quite a change in terms of who is now involved in the CBD market, how many big companies got into the play going as far back as 2018, and how much that has changed. We're going to talk about the landscape of CBD products, and also go into areas where it comes to if we can get to the conversation about food safety and what kind of compliance standards should be put in place. So we're going to talk about that more with Breanna here on Blunt Business after a short break.
Rolling into some sponsors, but we'll be right back with more Blunt Business.
Welcome back to Blunt Business. I'm here with Breanna Neff, founder and chief food scientist at Brelixi. So before the break, I mentioned that New York Times put out an article recently, and they talked about the rise of CBD products and just how we were bombarded with products all over the place. And a lot of it came from some large corporate companies that got into the space. So around 2018, at its apex, CBD was everywhere, appearing in water, chocolate bars, tinctures, gummies, and skin serums. Consumers could buy athleisure apparel infused with CBD oil and feed their nervous pups CBD chews and snacks. Big corporations then jumped in with Molson Coors, teaming up with a Canadian cannabis firm to create a line of CBD infused drinks. Constellation Brands, the makers of Modelo beer, they made a $4 billion investment in a publicly traded cannabis company. And Ben and Jerry's began looking into CBD infused ice cream. But now the industry's stalled out in the last couple of years. Molson Coors ended its venture. Constellation written down more than $1 billion of its cannabis investments, and large companies have shelved plans for CBD products, and hundreds of startups have either shut down just the other ingredients or simply tempered their growth projections. Now, I can tell you this because we used to have a number of CBD shows we would see out there, and all these companies that were just like, you know, fly by day, end by night, kind of just they were here
Mhm.
and gone so quickly. But you came into the space, like you said, in November 2022, and you're here after all that was going on. So there's been a stigma that was been put on the CBD ever since then. But
Mhm.
now there's this precipitous fall of the industry that people are befuddled by what CBD is, whether it is legal, and if it will get them high. So
Mhm.
because of coming into the space now after all this happening, a good 5 year span, where do you see things right now when you are putting out a CBD based product?
Yeah, so I would say we first the idea landed in November 2022. We actually launched shortly after May 2023. So we're still less than a year old in the market. And I could tell you that in terms of our CBD product and that type of industry play here, I personally am seeing unlimited potential and opportunities. And let me tell you, I think it's mostly due to the fast acting CBD that we're utilizing and the blend of functional ingredients. I think we were able to capture not only the anxiety reduction that people are always seeking because of this, work-life balance that Americans typically are struggling with, but also the health conscious people, the, post-COVID, the whole entire marketplace in terms of food and beverage and how people are, let's say, relating to products now in the CPG space has shifted. Everyone is reading the labels and really, really making sure that the benefits is what they're seeking for and what they want to put into their body. So I think that type of change of landscape and the fact that it is, 5, 6 years down the line of it being completely federally legal to have these types of products nationwide, I feel like that this timing is making it very approachable for others to consider a product like this if they weren't approachable to it before. And then that with the fast acting nature and the functional ingredient nature, we really haven't seen any, let's say, pushback or hesitancy in both trying our product and then also onboarding our product as a new, into our new retailer, let's say. So I found that Times article to be really shocking and surprising, to be honest, but it makes a lot of sense, as you were saying, the startups kind of coming in and out. And I mean, that's typical in an emerging industry,
Oh yeah.
especially if you're building a product and not a brand, right? If you're just building a CBD seltzer, but it doesn't have any feeling to it, there's no face behind it. It's just a random brand here and there. People aren't going, they're quick to not have extreme product loyalty or brand loyalty, let's say, to that type of product. So I feel like it's really important as a startup or a new company to have a really a community, but also a brand and a feel behind it. We're just not, something that is incomparable to others.
And I think you've done a great job right now with brelixi in terms of packaging the product and the message going behind what the product is all about. So I want to go and
Thank
now
you.
put your food scientist hat on and go into where food safety is coming into play and what the food safety industry has said via Food Safety Magazine. Because for those out there, if we get to the point where there are standards put in place and that we can get to that conversation, as we were talking about before the break, where companies now need to realize, okay, this is what is required. We have pure guidance. We have transparency as to what we should be doing in terms of the process of manufacturing products. So, Food Safety Magazine writes this quote, long passage, by the way. Food safety becomes intricate in the absence of defined production standards and risk based, scientifically grounded testing. This deficiency jeopardizes consumer health and safety, and several issues arise due to the cannabis industry's lack of standards, including inconsistencies and laboratory practices, processes, verifications, validations, and essential protocols necessary for reliable laboratory data. Variability and lack of appropriate oversight also exist in laboratory procedures, highlighting the significance of good laboratory practices or GLPs and the insufficiency of in-house laboratories without proper controls, which yield dissimilar data compared to accredited third-party laboratories, and it leads to situations where favorable results from one retailer may lack data integrity, while another retailer employing accredited laboratories maintains rigorous procedures and data integrity. And the consequences of utilizing in-house laboratories versus Third-party laboratories, accredited third parties, result in dramatically divergent testing outcomes. Just because one laboratory deems a product safe or assesses it for microorganisms with favorable results does not necessarily imply accuracy or validity. The lack of cohesive standards presents issues with the relevance of the parameters being tested or scientifically based foundations. So you still freelance as a food science consultant now. What can you tell me about the idea of instituting good laboratory practices and what the food safety industry is saying as a whole about where the cannabis industry lies right now?
Yeah. Well, what you highlighted was basically what, a food scientist deals with every day. And again, that turns to the regulatory bodies not really being that adequate in what they're producing in terms of standardization. So yes, there are GLPs or GMPs. So GLPs is good laboratory practices, and then GMPs is good manufacturing practices. That is set, and that is a standard that everyone should be following if they have a manufacturing site and or a laboratory site. But as I see as a food scientist, you go to different, you go to one accredited laboratory, you go to another one, you're testing the same exact product. There will be slight differences in the product, and it's not only due to the nature of the formulation and natural, vitamins and minerals, let's say, but it has to do also to number one, the personnel, and then number two, their equipment. So as a food scientist myself, knowing this and having a lot of experience in specifically this, contradicting lab results and, in inconsistent laboratory practices, let's say, or methodology, I really make sure that that is something that I review. So I go in and do a laboratory audit. I'm actually invited, and I kind of invite myself, let's say, and go to these different laboratory centers, the ones that I really feel confident in. And, I've done my preliminary research and vetting out. They've done some tests for me already. And then I see that they're pretty consistent. So then I want to go in and really make sure that I have my eyes on number one, the personnel, number two, their equipment to make sure that it's up to standards. And then honestly, it's just speaking to the staff and looking at their history, their other reports to kind of gain a good food safety history standing, seeing what that is and analyzing that. That's the way that I go. And that's what makes me really confident in these types of practices because of the inconsistent natures that you are highlighting. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but this is the reality. And so those places that have really good controls are going to deliver and produce really good things. But unfortunately, the controls aren't even that stringent or set or checked upon in the way that I believe that they should. So because they're not, people are getting away with a lot more than they should. And because I know that, I'm really making sure that I'm doing these type of site visits annually and really making sure that they're up to par for my list and for my desires.
One of the points they made a point across is that of those that try to use in-house laboratories versus those that are third party outside of the business, and how talk to me about the importance of having it where it is somebody that's third party accredited, and why if you need to have testing of the products that you don't want to have any kind of a bias that can be put in place.
Yep, exactly that. Yep. It always has to be third party accredited because the whole bias thing you want, I'm testing vitamin C, for example. I really, really need it to be 100 milligrams of vitamin C. And oh my gosh, it's actually 95, but it's in-house and I have some type of, financial gain if this product actually is 100 milligrams and I have to rerun it, for example. I'm going to maybe make those results a little bit more attractive for me. That's something you definitely don't want to avoid and want to prevent. And so that's why it's 100% required that these test results should be from a third lab party. And then also I would do even more due diligence, as I was saying before, and more vetting out to making sure that yes, they are third party, but they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. And the other part too is that you make mention of not just good laboratory practices, but also good manufacturing practices. That's one of the areas that I always like to go and make the point of that if companies want to really be above board and in terms of compliance, that they should be trying to go ahead and incorporating good manufacturing practices, regardless of the investment and how much resources and wherewithal you would need to have required. But we can't expect the guidance that or compliance standards that are going to be substandard by whichever states that you're trying to put a product in, or you can't expect the Cannabis Control Board to go ahead and put something that's going to be, at this point, they're not going to go ahead and put the compliance standards at such a level that's going to make it impossible for companies to go ahead and be able to invest in or be able to go ahead and reach that goal. So they're making it where there's a bottom barrier to entry. But I'm always saying to other companies out here on this program that for your compliance standards, that you have to there has to be a well above to stay proactive and to also put yourself as high to the GMP level or reach GMP levels as you can. You're eventually going to have to get there somehow, some way. So no time's better than now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Definitely, make sure that your operations and your whatever your procedures are set up for the long term and definitely not the short term, as that's obviously not sustainable and just puts more pressure and probably required resources on the company. But yeah, that's definitely what I recommend is honestly, if you have any questions or concerns, consulting with some type of food safety or food science professional to make sure that your systems in the long terms are set up correctly.
And are you available for companies out there that are going to be listening to you on this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a possibility for them to go ahead and reach out to you for you to go and consult with them so they can go and definitely learn what they should be doing to try to go and reach that level of compliance?
Yes, yep. I still act as a freelancer in my very small moments as a free time in terms of founding and starting this business. But I love helping and being a resource to people, even just chatting with them like this and giving them some good tips and good resources to look at. So I definitely encourage people to reach out to me if they have any questions like that. And I could also guide them towards other people and other professionals that could help them further. So yeah, you can find me for that on LinkedIn. My name is Breanna Neff, BreannaNeff. Definitely find me there. And then also Breanna at brelixi.com.
And I also know this website, also consciousfoodsolutions.com. So if you can find consulting services there,
Yep.
a holistic approach to food and beverage development. So definitely some areas to go and work on there. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I know that you've been quite a bit of interest in terms of what's going on in terms of cannabinoids being used as an alternative to opioids for pain management. So the players in the NFL, and we talked about a while back where the NFL wanted to offer money in terms of research funding so that researchers can start looking at this very point about opioids for pain management. And that's something you've been following along with. We're going to ask you about that and also learn more about brelixi and really just give everybody an idea of, you know, how reliable you can make sure you can bet your bottom dollar that if you want to have a great food product, I think a certified food scientist that knows what she's doing will probably know what to do to manufacture, develop, and create great products like brelixi. Again, here with Breanna Neff, founder and chief food scientist at brelixi, brelixi.com. Take a look at the website as we go to break. Back with final questions after this.
Rolling into some sponsors, but we'll be right back with more Blunt Business.
And we're on the home stretch here on Blunt Business. I'm here with Breanna Neff, founder and chief food scientist at brelixi. Let's talk about what the NFL's been doing. We've been kind of following the story. So 2022, National Football League, they announced an award of $1 million in research funding to two teams of medical researchers at University of California, San Diego and University of Regina in Canada. And on our Hempire series, we actually talked with NFL Hall of Famer Kyle Turley about this very study because it was right at the time that they said the money was going to be doled out for research. Well, now the study's finally been approved, and now they're going to pursue the research on whether cannabinoids can be used as an alternative to opioids for pain management, hoping to address an unmet need among athletes at risk of head injuries on the field. There's two randomized controlled trials they're going to be working on: effects of cannabinoids on pain and recovery from sports-related injuries in elite athletes, and naturally produce cannabinoids for pain management and neuroprotection from concussion and participation in contact sports. So, Breanna, tell me about your interest in this and what you think about this study finally coming to fruition.
Oh my gosh, when it comes to studies, like you just have to cross your fingers and pray that they actually get finished. The fact that it took 2 years to start them and to kind of get that going isn't surprising either, but I'm so excited that it is.
Right.
Honestly, I would say like 3-ish years is a good goal for some start findings to start being published. That's what I would I would say I would estimate out. But I am so excited to see these results and to understand, more about exactly this, the efficacy of treatment in terms of, all the different ways, all the different therapeutic benefits that cannabis has, but specifically on, CTE management, the huge, the biggest issue in NFL and football contact sports is this concussion, high risk of concussion. And so how to actually treat that and also have preventative medicines or therapies. Knowing that this is a huge issue in this type of league is something I'm really, really happy and impressed that the NFL is taking steps towards this direction. So I'm super, super eager to see what those results are. And I actually know one of the research labs that are performing that got some of this grant money actually. So I'm keeping close on eye on them to see what updates they're gonna, bring about and things like that. So yeah, very, very exciting times. I'm only assuming the best can come out of this research just from my experience with myself, my friends and family, but then also consumers. So strangers that are just coming to me after trying the product saying how much it's helped them with both their chronic illnesses. I'm getting specifically fibromyalgia, arthritis, and lupus. Those are specifically people come up to me because of the functional blend and the cannabinoid fast acting delivery. I feel like that all together synergistically really helps them with their chronic illnesses. So I can't wait to have more studies proving this.
Let's go and put back our focus right now as we wrap things up with Brelixi again. BRELIXI.com. And you've recently unveiled new flavorless and functional THC and CBD fast acting powders. You spoke with the folks at Food Bev and you said this, quote, I designed our flavorless and functional powders to fill a gap I had personally experienced in the market. There's no other product that provides consumers speed, functionality, and seamless integration into daily rituals. Whether mixed into your morning coffee to soothe caffeine jitters or infused into cookies for an elevated experience, the powders are designed for multifaceted consumption to ensure confidence and consistency in infused moments. So if you can expand on that for us more.
Yes, I am so excited about this new product. So we just launched it in January, late January of this year. And it's been a pretty remarkable experience so far in terms of just the customers loving the option between the flavorless and the flavored elixir sticks. So we put it in a tub format. So it's a 30 serving. It's either 20 servings or 30 servings, depending on which jar type you get. And the whole intention is for this tub to sit on your kitchen cart or your counter or what have you, wherever you're making your food and beverages, and for it to be a part of your daily routines, a part of your daily rituals. So you can elevate anytime that you'd like or relax anytime that you'd like with our instant CBD option. It's heat stable up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a huge feature because people can easily cook with it. You can put it in your soups and your marinades. I recommend putting it in your condiments and sauces just to have that kind of instant boost and elevation anytime you'd like. The fact that it's flavorless it's a great thing to lean in on because you are not faced with any of that type of plant funkiness or any of that type of, let's say, aftertaste that some people aren't that attracted to. And you're really able to, again, enhance kind of anything that you'd like. So I personally always put CBD in my morning coffee. Caffeine, I'm very, very sensitive to this. It really makes me jittery and kind of have those anxious type of feelings if I overdo it. So CBD really helps me to keep at that homeostasis. So with that, we have magnesium for mood balance. We have 5-HTP for also another focus and mood balance support. And adaptogen, we have L-theanine for stress support. I feel like all of that with our instant cannabinoid of your choice really helps to elevate again. Any time that you're looking for that type of release or, just a reset in your day.
And I know there's quite a bit of products that are coming out to the market. Circle is always one of those that I see quite a bit where, oh, here's the water bottle, here's the flavors. Go ahead and mix it up and enjoy water as much as you can, customizing flavor of your water. And I noticed that from the website at Brelixi, you actually have that kind of the same idea. So you have the fast acting powders in jars, or you can also have the in the single individual packs. Plus, you even have the mixed bottle, portable mixer bottle if you want to go have that as well. You've thought about everything. It's like, okay, that same kind of, service of being able to go and have it where, okay, you want to mix this together. Here's the drink sticks. Here's the water bottle. Get the water, mix it up, and get energized and really get the benefits of what Brelixi offers. So talking about the whole idea of where, if that was kind of the direction you went with.
Yeah, exactly. So we have our portable mixie bottle, and that was the whole intention is to, not have it being extremely easy for you to create your own infused elixir on the go. And so if you have your own water bottle, it's reusable. We have a rechargeable USB port so that it's an electric mixer. You can instantly mix our flavor packets in 8 ounces of water with our little measured meter marker on the water bottle itself. You press a button, it automatically mixes for 30 seconds. And so you don't have to do anything besides fill it up with water, put the stick in there, and then press the button. And why I love it as well is because the blades are so strong, you could create a smoothie as well. So it's actually like a juicer in a smoothie bottle. So you can do fruit, small, and some small ice to also create a really awesome shake or milkshake experience or smoothie. So yeah, I wanted to give the customers a lot of options to basically enhance their already, their already done daily routines and make it as convenient and easy as possible. So with the brelixi mixie bottle, as well as with our gift boxes, we have like 12 stick gift boxes to give you a really nice price point, but also the offering amount that you might want to, share with your family and friends or have enough for the whole month or what have you. We find it to be, yeah, again, as convenient as possible is our intention there.
The other thing too is I drink a lot of water myself. And I always think about the fact that, and I always hear people, constantly on social media talking about, well, in your water, that what you're eating from the tap, or there's a lot of water products that don't have, the pH level is not that good. They don't have offer any electrolytes. They don't offer, it's not spring water. It's distilled, and it's all these other areas about feeling, well, in other areas, people will drink water and they will stay, in America, you might drink water and you might still stay thirsty. Meanwhile, in other places, it's like, well, there's all these different things being talked about. What do you say about that part where, I guess in some of the formulations that you have, is that something that you could say where, while it's being functional, is it also something where it kind of helps for performance wise, where
Mm-hmm.
you might have, your Gatorades or your Powerades or what have you, or your vitamin waters and all this, and
Mm-hmm.
all this discussion of water and what you should be having? Because I hear it all the time, but it's like, well, I don't know what to think anymore on how to kind of go in that direction. How would you put Brelixi to be
Mm-hmm.
the standard bearer? Why should that be the better choice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would definitely, my first answer to the better choice is the sugar content. Like, please look at the sugar content of any other electrolyte flavored beverages and compare it to our flavored electrolyte stick. Is what standard is 30, 40, 50 grams a serving of sugar. And it's just so remarkable to me as a food scientist because you could do it in a different way. You could do it in a better way. So that's definitely what I brought to Brelixi. We have 5 grams of sugar per serving in our lemonade sticks that are really, really flavorful and are not without the sweetness at all. So I would say that's a pretty huge difference there. And also, we have our blend of electrolytes in there for increased hydration. And then with the other functional blends, it really, I feel like all goes together again in a synergistic manner to really amplify each other. And that's kind of what you hear and see with cannabis as well. That's why I wanted to emulate that type of entourage effects in this formulation as well. We have an isolate, cannabinoid, but that doesn't mean that you're not also feeling all of these other amazing, stress relieving and anxiety relieving and hydration supporting effects.
Now, guidance on what type of water you should be using to blend in with Brelixi. What would you say about the kind of water you're using? And is there any real importance about what you're putting into to mix it with?
Nothing of huge importance. Again, I really wanted it to be a customizable, personal experience per each customer.
Mhm.
So a lot of people have been telling me they love coconut water in there because it has, even more electrolytes if they're really along that trying to, have that be their intention.
Right.
But for me personally, and what I do at events or activations is spring water. I really like, I think it's because I worked at Evian. I really like their blend of electrolytes or minerals.
I do too. I like the taste. You tell in the taste. You can tell in the taste.
Yeah, the taste is, yeah, isn't it crazy? It's just the mineral blend, and every spring water has different mineral blends that they actually have to put on their label to showcase, and that's how they're remarkably different, right? It's like, my Evian spring water is different and better than your spring water because of the mineral blend. So, it's cool to also see, like you said, that you're a fan, of drinking these different spring waters. The fact that you can taste it, different types of water, you can definitely understand kind of your preferences, your taste preferences on which minerals you like, which I really find to be a fun thing to figure out.
Right. Well, because if I can find Avion, and for the most part, I can find it pretty constantly, but it's like I'll go after that. The other one I also like a lot for whatever reason, Poland Spring or Origin. Always like their spring water
Mm,
as well. It's just, well, I like the bottle, the shape, the contour, and it's just like I don't know, it just has you don't feel that filmy taste. Like, let me tell you, don't give me a
mm.
Dasani or Aquafina. Like, I know that's just the water's used for carbonation for Pepsi and Coke. Don't give me that. It's like, and I can't believe they can't sell that all over the place. There's that the guy that's a water sommelier that always I see on my TikTok feed,
It's crazy.
and he
Yeah.
talked about, but it's like he's not wrong about that. I was like, all right, well, I'm looking,
Hmm.
and then Well, you don't get that. Just put a little Himalayan salt, sea salt. Like, all right, whatever. It's like this
Right.
so much about this, but like you said, a good spring water. I agree with you on that. And also,
Yeah.
I love that the flavors you put together. Elderberry lemonade. I know that our team definitely probably favored more of the lemonade because of like the little bit of the
Mm,
tang, and also we're a hot climate in South Florida, so it probably works out for a good thirst. That's probably where they
mhm.
come from with that. But uh, again, CBD or a THC infused 5 packs. You also have the Mixie bottle.
Mhm.
So if you go to brelixi.com, get the bundles and go ahead and get yourself the
Yep.
bottle, get yourself the packs or the powder in the jar, and just go ahead and go at it. And
Mhm.
Breanna Neff, again, I really appreciate you coming on with us. And I'm just glad we got this interview done because I really
Yes.
love what you're doing, and I love that you're in the space. I honestly, I want to make it a point that we're really thankful for someone like you to be in the space to help out in this respect because I think this discussion was well warranted, and I'm glad we had it here on the show. Thank you for making time for us to go ahead and talk on all about this. And again,
Mhm.
continue best of luck for Berlixi.
Well, thank you. Really, really appreciate the warm testaments there. Thank you so much for having me. And, I'm so happy to be on. The only way that we can further destigmatize cannabis in this industry is to have discussions like this, right? Is to continue education and honestly just to have the conversation and having different people hear it and having different people have different perspectives change. So thank you so much for having me on and for having such a great programming here.
Thank you again. And again, for compliance, I want the right people to come on to go ahead and talk about it. And this is where I don't even get into the part of what you do in terms of being a food scientist in the lab or in the environment. But again, we'll always keep the door open and going to have you on back. Breanna Neff, founder and chief food scientist at Brelixi. One more time, website brelixi.com. Thank you for being on, and thank you, listeners, for listening in. We'll talk to you next time.